Okay. I think we're good. I think everything is set up to where I needed it to be. So, today's the first time I'm trying something like this. It's primarily just because I want to try going more into what I try to advertise myself to be, being surrounded by, like, not surrounded by, but, dinosaurs and stuff of the sort. So, I'm planning on this being a commonality with my schedule, which I still need to actually make one, but that's besides the point. Point is, today is a slideshow. I have not done a slideshow in a while, so I could not tell you how good this is or anything, but I did the best I could to make sure the information and everything featured on it is as accurate as possible. After stream and everything, it's going to be put in my Discord in a chat, so that way it's basically going to be a record of it all. So every slideshow that I make for each of the 2 sets of dinosaurs are going to be kind of like recorded. It'll be a permanent thing for later on if anybody ever wants to go back over them, look over them, if they weren't there for a stream or another stream or anything like that. So, they will be there for future use and everything. So, that being said, I'm hoping this will be... Oh, and there's the pre-rolls, of course. When did that come in? That was like 7 minutes in? I don't know. Hey, stranger, how you doing? Why is my chat not working? Oh my gosh. Great. Twitch chat, I need you to refresh yourself, please. Why? Oh my... of course. I'm doing alright. I don't know why my stinking Twitch has decided it doesn't want to show up with everything, but you know what? It's always great when my chats decide they don't want to work. Let me fix that while the ads are going. Where is it? There it is. No, you're good, you're good. I know. Let me see. This overlays. Let me try. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'll have to see if YouTube is working when somebody over there decides they want to chat. But for now, let me try to fix Twitches. Let me save it. Can I reload you? Refresh. Will you show up, or is your size wrong? What's happening here? Ah, great. My chat has decided it doesn't want to work. Chat has just decided it doesn't want to exist today, I guess. Because this is the thing. Why are you not connecting to my chat? Boy. Great. It was working Monday. And now it has decided it doesn't want to function today. That's just my life. That is my life when it comes to technology and bots. But you know what? Whatever. Just continue for the intro and you can fix it after the intro. Yeah, exactly. I'll just hide the chats for now. I'll figure that out in a minute. Anyway, now that the ads are over, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying because the ads distracted me and the lack of chat distracted me. Anyway, so the purpose of this is supposed to be that, great. It's not me if I don't have some form of scuff. It's really not. Anyway, so the purpose of this is to, hopefully, have people walk away with a bit more information than what they would have maybe prior. Granted, some dinosaurs are more popularly known in media, have more iterations of them, more physical whatevers, but there are some dinosaurs that are not well known of. That's the point of the voting system as well. So, if there's a dinosaur in there you don't know what it is and you want to see things about it, well, that's what you're gonna make me have to research. That is how that works. So, in the meantime, the site, like I was, oh, that's what I was saying. That is what I was saying. The slideshows are going to be posted in my Discord, that way people can go back over them in the future. And that is also where the polls, the primary polls, I put a poll on Twitter as well, but the primary polls are also on my Discord as well, so if anybody wants to join, I have that linked in my About Me. It's a very obvious little PNG there. You can click and you can come into the Discord. The About Me on Twitch. On YouTube, I do not have a link to my Discord. I will be figuring something out for that later on, but aside from that, anyway, I think that is just about everything. So, I could probably actually do this. Let me see if I can get Twitch chat to at least work. Because there is no reason why it shouldn't be working. You're just not gonna work today, are you? No, you're not. Great. Oh, well. So, we'll deal with that later. Not important. Anyway, so let me find where I put... Here we go. The slideshow. Whoops. Nope, go back. So, I already kind of did a general overview, but here is... You'll be able to see everything in a slideshow as well. So things that I'm going to say are also going to be in the slide. If I can speak English properly, that would be very good. That would be great. But everything that I discuss will be in the slideshow, so that way you guys can go back and go over it, look over it. If you wind up having questions after the stream, or you catch the VOD, or you're in the YouTube video that I'm eventually going to edit this down into, then by all means feel free to look over this and ask any questions if you do, and if I don't know it, well, that just means more research. Why does it look like my stream is buffering? What is happening right now? Today is just technical, I don't know why it looks like my stream is buffering. That's not important either. Unless something actually happens, it'll be fine. Anyway, so, it's Prehistoric Wednesday. The two dinosaurs, which was voted by you, the community, or my community, was the Smilodon and the Tenontosaurus. The Smilodon pretty much won by a landslide. It was between the Tenontosaurus and the direwolf, as they both got one vote. But I decided on the Tenontosaurus, that way there is a prehistoric mammal and a dinosaur on this. I might do it like that as well. If I have a mammal and a dinosaur that both have a relative amount of votes or anything, unless it's something like 2 dinosaurs get the landslide vote and 2 mammals get the landslide vote, then I'll try doing it 1 mammal, 1 dinosaur. That way it's covering both bases. But as you can also see on screen, I am now starting to try and make some merch, I guess you could say. These little slideshows and everything are going to be kind of my gateway into picking dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures to draw, to make stickers of, keychains, pins, anything like that. Now, there's no release date right now for them, as I would have to get some stickers and stuff printed and made to test quality, but the designs themselves are not done. They're almost done, but they're not quite done. There'll still be a preview at the end, so that way you guys can see what to expect, and it's going to be the same for every slideshow that I do. There's always going to be a preview of the stickers and the process of them being made, so that way you know that I am in fact the one who made them. Now, as I also mentioned, this will be a YouTube video as well. I'll cut this down and do everything like that. That way it can also be gone back and watched easier in a shorter form than what I'm hoping I can manage to make my usual 3-hour stream. But, anyway. I am so bad at this. I haven't done a presentation in years. That's technically what this is. But, anyway. So I only have a slight bit of rules when it comes to... Oh, I'm not even... There we go. I only have a slight bit of rules when it comes to these Prehistoric Wednesdays. They're not here yet, but I've already kind of gone over what it is. Only dinosaurs, prehistoric mammals. The rules is after this. I thought I had the rules before this, but I don't. Oh. Twitch. Are we good? Of course we're not. Are we? Great. Thanks. Anyway, I don't know why it's looking like my streams are having buffering issues today. Anyway, so it's looking like it is on my end, because the previews I have, for some reason, are, like, lagging. Just to make sure nothing goes wrong on the streams. But anyway, it's not important. Unless somebody tells me something is actually wrong, then I'm just gonna ignore it for now, because it's probably just me. Anyway, so, the Prehistoric Wednesdays. I've already kind of gone over a little bit of what they are, but I am hoping, and it will change the name also, but I am hoping that, should these go well with the dinosaurs and prehistoric mammals, I want to go more into, like, artifacts, the prehistoric fauna, maybe even space and gemstones, since a lot of these things also go into, like, the prehistoric eras and things like that, and the way they're made, the way that they're processed and everything. I'm hoping to, like, expand more into my interests that I can ramble about, since that's apparently the one thing that is good to do. This is an excuse for me to do so. So, for now, only prehistoric mammals and dinosaurs. So, what I mean by prehistoric mammals is, like, mammals from the Ice Age, for example. Like, how I said we're doing the Smilodon today. Smilodon, dire wolf, mammoth, that sort of stuff. That's prehistoric mammals and other things. And then, of course, the many, many dinosaurs that exist. Now, and I also have said, you, the community, will be able to vote on what you want to see. So, there's also that. Hopefully, that will start getting more and more attention as time goes on. Don't appreciate why it looks like everything's having a problem. It's making me paranoid. But yes, so the intention of these is for you to come out with information about a dinosaur or a mammal that you may not have known before, or or just in general, knowing about something you may or may not have known before. Whether it's a fact, whether it's the animal itself, so many other things. That's the entire intention of these. And you get to listen to me yap about it for who knows how long, because that is what I have decided my hyperfixations and everything apparently reside around. Space, dinosaurs, and rocks. Which go side and side, considering dinosaurs are fossils. I appreciate that, stranger. It's good till now. Good, I appreciate it. I am glad. The only one I'm paying attention to is my YouTube stream, because I know YouTube can be very funky sometimes. So I don't really need this. This can go away. So, that being said, I'm also trying to practice my researching skills as well. It's been, like I said, been a while since I've had to actually, like, research something in depth and make sure facts and stuff are relatively equal throughout all of the sources I looked through. So, the slideshows will only get better over time. They're only gonna get better over time. So, that's, where I want to make sure I'm not too quiet. Okay, I'm good. I used to actually have an interest in wanting to be a paleontologist or an astronomer at one point in time in my younger life, but I never had the ability to figure out resources on what colleges would have been great to get that, and whatever, so this is kind of my way to be able to do that without actually being one, so who knows? Who knows? It's at least something. Now, here are the rules. I've only got 3. Don't be rude. If you come in here being an asshole, not gonna tolerate it. There is no reason for it. This is simply just for fun. It's not like I'm saying, oh, I am God, this is my gospel. It's not like I'm doing that. This is just for fun. This is just for you to potentially learn something new. There is no point in being rude. There is really not. The second one, just have fun. Well, like I just said, it's meant to be silly, meant to have fun, meant to hopefully have somebody learn something new about a dinosaur. Not entirely, like, anything. Yeah, it's just a simple little slideshow that I decided I wanted to do so I can yap about something for once instead of sitting in silence, so. And then, third rule, ask questions. If you see something on here that you don't understand, or maybe it's a weird term or something like that, feel free. And I already also mentioned it. If you come across this after I am no longer live and you have a question, you're still more than free to ask a question. And whether it's in the comments or you join my Discord and ask questions in that specific chat or anything like that, then by all means, just do it. If I don't know, then it's something else I get to look up. Nothing wrong with that. So, like I said, first creature on the docket is the Smilodon. I decided for each of these I'm also going to put their scientific classifications on it. Don't you dare do the stinking brick wall thing to me. Don't you dare. That is just rude. Don't. Anyway, what did I just say about being rude? Huh? What did I just say about being rude? Anyway, I decided to put each animal's classification. I know it's true, but that doesn't mean you still get to be rude about it. Anyway, I decided to put, for both the Smilodon and the Tenontosaurus, they're going to have their species classifications as well, so that way it can be. Also, you can also see that there are some similarities in the way some creatures are placed, because of just how the classification system and everything works. Which means maybe at some point in time I make a slideshow that explains these things. So, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But the Smilodon is also known as the saber-toothed tiger. Mammalian large-class predatory big cat went extinct around 13 to 9,000 years ago. It was an American native's big cat, which means it lived in both North and South America. There are two separate, two separate, like, fossil sites that have specimens of the Smilodon, which will be gone over in a later slide a little more in depth, but I also see that there is a ad break starting soon. And I also just realized for some reason this picture, I'm gonna hide this again real quick, because I also just realized this picture is covering some text. Hang on. There we go. There we go. Now that's fixed and you can see it. I thought I fixed that, but I guess something happened to where it just didn't bother. But I'm gonna wait for the ad to be over. Yeah, before the ads are over. Yeah, I'll wait for the ads and then we'll continue on. Even though they've not started yet, I know they're going to start soon, so I don't want to be in mid-sentence and somebody just gets, like, completely blocked off by the ads. No. Let me see. They're going to start here shortly. Usually when that pops up, it's only a couple of, like, maybe a minute or two before the ads show up. So, I'm gonna make sure that nobody gets blocked off. Yep, there it is. That's the one where the ads are actually playing, just when you said it. Exactly. Like I said, they usually happen like a minute or two after Seribot gives the "it's starting soon" here. Of course I am nervous. It's a stinking slideshow. It's a presentation. The only thing I'm... And also the slight nervousness is, unfortunately, I do have diagnosed anxiety. I just don't have my anxiety medicine. I need more of it. I didn't realize how low I was. So that is why. It's not that I'm nervous about this. I just have general anxiety in general. So, and I'm out, so I need more, unfortunately. Which I don't know if we have another one. I might. Not sure. I'll have to check later. It'll be fine. I'm fine. It'll be fine. Probably. Oh, gee, thanks for the vote of confidence. Alright. That means, like, maybe 30 seconds or something, but I can go ahead and start going back. So what did I just do? Oh yes, I was talking about... I'll go over more in depth in a later slide, but I was talking about how there are specimens that were found in both North and South America. So there's like two distinct fossil sites well, actually they're tar pits that had specimens found. One of them, South America, I believe I have it in here as Peru, which I believe that is correct. And then the North American one is actually over in California, Los Angeles. Wait, no. Yes, Los Angeles. So, those are the two primary sites, a bit more in depth later on, but despite being known as the saber-toothed tiger, they have no real correlation to, like, modern-day big cats. They're considered a tiger, but they are not actually related to the tiger. They are a different diverging evolutionary line. So it's actually kind of interesting to have found that out, because I always kind of knew that they weren't really related to tigers. That was always kind of a common fact, but the way that they're not is what makes it kind of interesting in its own way. So, yeah. Oh yeah, I have it right here as a fun fact, actually. The La Brea Tar Pits, which is the one I was talking about that's over in Los Angeles, it's got hundreds of specimens. It's like the one place that has the largest amount of Smilodon specimens that were ever found, according to what I found in my research for this slideshow. The largest collection ever collected of these specific fossils and skeletons. So, that was also interesting, because I never really knew where they got them from. It's quite fun. And it's also the state fossil of California, which I can only assume is because of the fact that most of the fossils, or like the biggest collection of these fossils, were found in their state. That's probably why, and I think there was a vague allusion to that being the case when I found that fact, but I didn't look too deeply into it. That's just an assumption on my end. Could be true, could be not. But yeah. Oh yes, I was mentioning this before the ad started as well. The classifications: Kingdom, Phylum, Class, Order, Family, Tribe, Genius. Yes, Genius. Genus. So, they're all kind of grouped in a similar manner as what you would see for big cats. It's just the biggest difference is they are part of They're not part of Panthera, which is why I say that means they're not closely related to modern big cats, because the modern big cats are in, I believe it's the family of Panthera, and the Smilodon is not. Yes, I don't believe they are. That was not something that was listed. It's, like I said, there's more in-depth on it here in a minute. Oh yes, and then the fossils. The reason why it got its name is because of its teeth. The Smilodon was named after the fossils. Literally translates to mean scalpel or two-edged knife, because of their teeth being so sharp and dagger-like. Now, there are 3 different species of the Smilodon, which I didn't know. I always assumed that there was maybe 2, but I didn't know that there were specifically 3. You got the... Probably gonna butcher the pronunciations of these, because I couldn't actually find the correct pronunciation of these, but you've got the S. gracilis, the S. fatalis, and the S. populator. I'm trying to do it as Latin as I can. I could be overthinking it, but those are the 3. The latter 2 are speculated to have descended from gracilis, which means probably evolved depending on their environments from gracilis to be more adept in their own specific, like, environments and everything. And the Peter Wilhelm Lund, from what I found as well, I don't quite know who was, like, the very first one to find these fossils, but from what I could find, he was one of the first ones to find the fossils, along with his assistants. And they mistook them for hyena bones, or, like, fossils of a hyena relative, because of the fact that they were incomplete. They didn't have the full skeleton or anything. They were just incomplete bones and fossils and everything, that the specific ones they found had similar qualities to the hyenas. So, I thought that was interesting. But, strangely enough, the Smilodon is an, overarching, from what you've seen probably in its common media and everything, the Smilodon is very, robust. It tends to have sort of like an arch in its back, smaller back legs in terms of height, while larger front legs. Bit more of a robust, probably bear-like cat in terms of the way it's built. Very robust, more robust than any currently living cat. You don't really see too many cats that are built like a Smilodon. But in its long teeth were considered to be made for, precision killing. So, one of, its hunting methods that they built like a fridge, pretty much. They're built like a rectangle with stubby little legs. Muscular legs, but stubby legs. So, they speculate its hunting method to actually have been, holding down its prey and then stabbing it or biting it with its teeth because of it being a precision killer due to those fangs. But nobody knows quite exactly how it would have been able to bite, because the teeth are also fragile. The teeth are fragile. The lower jaw doesn't seemingly have as strong of a bite force as you would see in modern big cats. And it's probably primarily because of the way the bones are built. Like, the top jaw, or the top part of the skull, has to be able to support the teeth. The bottom jaw would not be able to have as much of a bite force because it's not as... I'm making motions with my hands. I know you guys can't see that, but that's just me. I'm making motions with my hands to try and be it had very little means of locking its teeth together. That's not on here. That's something I remember having read when I was looking through all this stuff. It's got the weaker jaw, or it's speculated to have had a weaker jaw and a weaker bite force. Because, these things aren't alive. There's no way to know. But it's just the way the jaw was built. The jaw wasn't built for, pressuring, necessarily crushing. It was built more for just biting. Yeah. But That being said, some of the prey that was seemingly thought of to be the saint's prey was bison and camels, or like just larger herbivores in general. Especially when it came to it being in North America, with where it was, obviously you had the bison herds that would have been in the area. I'm not quite sure about the camels, but honestly, it would not surprise me if there was a prehistoric camel that was in the same area as it. That I have to look for, because I am very curious about that. So I'm not quite sure, but that was the, like, in terms of the camels, but that was the best thing I could find out of everything. But just in general, larger herbivores. And you've also got the long llamas and ground sloths, which were assumed to be prey for in South America, since that was the other range it extended down into. So, I'm not even about to try and pronounce the actual name of the long llama. The Macrochana? I'm not sure. There was no pronunciation for this name, like the break apart that shows how this thing is actually pronounced. I don't know, but it's also translated to mean the long llama. So, there's that, in terms of, like, what it was speculated to be, have as prey, have as things it hunted. And you've also got it. There's no actual evidence, from what I was able to find, of it being confirmed that it's in that it was a social, or it had, like, social circles or anything. It's just mostly speculation on if it was solitary or social. There were some things that were found that they could have been both. They could be both solitary or social, but it's kind of a toss-up. It could easily be one or the other, really. I personally am of the opinion that maybe it was kind of like lions, in the sense that maybe there weren't prides, but the females would stick together, or maybe males would stick together, and they were just kind of like separate. Or maybe they were social, and it's kind of like tigers, where females would just have their cubs and be on their own, and every single one of them was sort of distant. Who knows? I kind of prefer the first one, because just smaller groups of, like, maybe 2 or 3, and it's just separated. Who knows? Who knows what they were like? I kind of find that interesting. Especially since they're not related to any common day big cat. It could be that they were simply solitary, could be that they had groups. Who knows? But, let me see. Oh yes, and now we're to the fun facts. First fun fact is that they were discovered, the fossils, that is, in the mid-19th century and onwards, even though Peter Windhelm discovered the first one over in the 1830s. That was, I think, the reason why they have it as, like, during the late 19th century. No, that is right, mid-19th century. That's about then. So it's not quite the mid, it's like 20 years before. But that's about during the mid-19th century and onwards, around the mid-19th century. That's a bit of poor wording on my part, but you get the point. It's sort of around that time period when the first fossils and everything were starting to be found, and then they found more of them. And then the term saber-tooth refers to a group of animals, so it's not just the saber-toothed tiger. The tiger bit is distinctive to the Smilodon, but there were other saber-toothed cats that are kind of just like a general group. And the reason why they're grouped like that is because of shared characteristics, the way their skull is made, and their skeletal structure, the large, massive teeth that are, surprisingly, they could either be as long as the Smilodons, in which they look like a really large dagger or dirk, or they can be slightly smaller, but it's probably measured into a certain extent on whether they would be considered a saber-tooth or not. But yeah, the skeletal structure and the canines are a shared evolution in what marks a saber-toothed cat as a saber-tooth. So it's not just the Smilodon. There's a couple others that are included in this. but it's neither here nor there. Those ones, if they are voted upon, will be dealt with in a later slide. Now, like I said in the previous slide, the build of the Smilodon was far more robust than what is commonly seen in felines. What does this mean? Well, that means reduced lumbar region, hind legs were closer to the ground than the forelegs, also means the back had a very slight slope. High scapula, which just means the shoulder blades were a little bit higher than what is also commonly seen. You've got the short tail, the broad limbs, and the short feet. So, it was built, as you have said, stranger, like a fridge. A fridge with legs. So, but yes. And it's pretty much what seems to be sort of distinctive to only these guys and other cats that are built like this that are now extinct, to have kind of like this sort of fridge-like build, as is the best way to explain it. But yes, there was also a bit of a debate for a while about if there was sexual dimorphism between male and female Smilodons. And with the 2012 study, it challenged that, stating that there were differences in some traits. There was very little difference in the size. So male and females were more than likely similar in size, the only difference being in the way that they were physically built and maybe structurally built. That seems to be the only primary difference in the, like, male and female, though that in of itself could easily have future evidence in future things found as more people potentially study these fossils, find out even more about them, and go from there. But for now, and it's specifically with the S. fatalis species, I couldn't find anything for the other two. That this specific one is primarily just for the middle species, which that's also another one. Actually, it's on this slide as well, but I see an ad, so as soon as I see the ad going, I'm going to take a pause. But basically, the S. fatalis is the middle of the gracilis and populator. They're the middle species in terms of height, weight, and just everything in relation to that. And the Smilodon was not known to have any patterns, because obviously there's not been any preserved specimen that would have shown what the coat pattern and stuff was like. They've been shown with both plain, spotted, and striped coats in terms of depictions on what this creature could have looked like, but obviously there's not much confirmed, and could very easily be all three. It could easily have been, maybe even depending on which subspecies of the Smilodon, it could have had plain, could have had spotted, could have had striped. Who knows? Or it could have been spotted and striped, as well as plain. That's just speculation at this point in time. Could have been a number of anything. Could have been purple. I doubt it. I doubt it could have been purple, but still, that's the point. But yes, let us see. Oh, let me get this back. And there's the ad. So I will take a bit of a pause here. Ah, yes. Yes, that one. I forgot about the Camelops. Now that's fair. I forgot about that one. I did indeed forget about the Camelops. I remember hearing it, like, vaguely some time ago. So yeah, more than likely, that's the one that the Smilodon was hunting. I don't know why it didn't just say Camelops and camel, but I guess it's just the same thing. It's just like a pre-evolution of a camel. Pre-evolution of a camel. Well, I know what creature I'm adding to the voting. Camelops, We'll at least have 2 dinosaurs and 2 mammals for people to vote for them. Concavinator. Yes, that was another one I was thinking of. But the Camelops I did forget about, so that one might be an option. I was thinking for this voting. I'll go over it after the slideshow and everything. I'll wait till after. I'm not gonna do that now, because I know I will distract myself from the task at hand if I go into that. But, yes, I have 4, and the Concavinator was one of them. Well, I had 3. I didn't have a 4th one. I was thinking of a 4th one, but the Camelops, blah, is probably going to be the one I choose for the second mammal. So, alright, so yes, now that we're back in this and everything, the 3 species are ordered from smallest to largest. So the Gracilis was the smallest, the Fatalis was medium, and then the Populator was the largest. And when I say large, I know I'm blocking some of the screen. That's why I say people will be able to go back and look over these slideshows later. But when I say large, they were large. Because some of the specimens of the Populator were even up to 900 to 1,000 pounds, which in British numbers, since America is strange, is 436 to 470 kilograms. At least in terms of the conversion I found. They were in kilograms, but obviously I have both in here for both places that could potentially look over this later on. That seems to be the relative even, but the Populator was a heavy cat. Heavy cat, robust cat, rotund cat. I doubt it was actually fat, but, you know, anyway. So, but the shoulder height of this thing was about 120 centimeters, 47 inches. The weight and mass range could be from, like, on the smaller end, 220 kilograms, which is 490 pounds, to over 400 kilograms, 880 pounds. I already said what the largest specimens that were found were figured to be around based on skull size and other factors for their skeletal structure. But that is the general range of the Populator. You've got the Fatalis, which, like I have said, in between the two, you got about shoulder height of 100 centimeters, which is 39 inches, weight around 160 to 280 kilograms, 350 to 620 pounds, and was about 175 centimeters, 69 inches, nice in body length. And then Gracilis, considered to be small, so the 3. Size of a jaguar, weighing around 500 to 100 kilograms, 121 to 220 pounds. So, bit of an interesting cat. And the other one, the largest one, quite large. And now this is what I was talking about when I said I have a screenshot of the evolutionary graph, which shows where they're at. So, kind of a bit of a general gist of this. It's like, to go back on the earlier fun fact, saber-toothed tiger, Smilodon is not closely related to the modern tiger or any extant felid, which means currently living cat or relative to that. Modern cat, basically. Smilodon belongs to the virgin evolutionary line, prevents that species from being related to any current day species. Studying 25-26 confirmed this, 25 being initial theory, 26 being the one that expanded upon it, in the terms of the ancestors and the Macarodontinae. I'm gonna have to figure out how to say some of these, but that, which was the ancestor to the Smilodon, diverged about 20 million years ago. So there's no direct relation, unfortunately. They did diverge some years ago to where you've got Felinae, Pantherinae, and Macarodontinae, which is all these guys down here, including the Smilodon, because you got that one, that. You got Felidae, which it's still a cat, so it's under Felidae, but it's this line right here that puts these guys up here, and then this guy down here, and then it goes down. So they diverged, and now there's just a distinct difference for it. Cladogram. I just saw the word I put. This is the cladogram, which, as I just explained, is basically the classifications and relations of modern cats and everything. So, and I know I'm blocking it, but the Smilodon is right down here with all three of its evolutionary lines. And I know you can see my mouse, but it's right down here. Now, here is where I talk about the tar pits. When it comes to the tar pits, both of them, where fossils and everything were found, they're interesting because they are called, well, they're called asphalt seeps or tar seeps, but they're considered carnivore traps. And the reason for this is because the primary number of fossils and everything that are found within these tend to be carnivores because of prey animals that get trapped in there. The carnivores might be able to get the prey out, but 9 times out of 10, they'd get themselves stuck in the tar. So, leave all the sediment and tar. Sediment and tar, because the tar would keep them stuck, and then the sediment would settle. They'd go down with the sediment. That would be a layer. Then there's another layer, and another layer. Basically just a bunch of layers of fossils and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, over 90% of them are predators, just due to this, because they would try getting stuff out, scavenging stuff that died, and then they'd get stuck trying to get the stuff out. It's also the reason why the tar pit the La Brea tar pit in Los Angeles is considered the well-known one. When I mentioned that the largest collection of fossils for the Smilodon was found there, I mean over 160,000 specimens were found from excavating the area. So, specifically, the Fatalis specimens, it's not even the other two. The other two probably were found there, but the primary amount goes to the Fatalis, which, based on that, I'm assuming the Fatalis was the most common Smilodon that existed. Sure, you had the other two, but based on the number of fossils, either the fossils of the other two are not easy to find, or the Fatalis was just the most common species of those three. It is very likely that could be the case, but I found nothing to directly confirm that. That is just my, assumption. But you've also got, and I mentioned that there were two tar pits that fossils were found in. One in North America, one in South America. The South America one, oh yeah, it is Peru. I was correct. It is Peru. I remembered that correctly. But it is called the Talara tar seeps. And they were also very similar in producing Smilodon bones. Not as many, and also not as good. Because apparently, the bones that were found there were much more weathered and broken, and it's speculated that because of the fact that they were all weathered and broken, the layers of the those tar pits in specific were thinner, meaning when animals thrashed around trying to get out when they got stuck and everything like that, they more than likely wound up damaging the other bodies and bones and fossils and everything that were underneath them in other layers, because the layers of everything were so thin. So it's unfortunate that those ones are damaged, but also makes sense if that is indeed the case. And the bones, at least in the one in Peru, I'm not sure if it applies to the Los Angeles one, but the one in Peru also seems to have had fossils that were of juveniles, leading to a theory that inexperienced and less fit individuals were more likely to become trapped in the pits when scavenging, meaning the area was probably predominantly traveled by juveniles that maybe weren't as experienced in hunting or things like that, stuck around the tar pits as a means of trying to get easy food, and just wound up getting stuck trying to drag prey and stuff out. Many of the sediments in these pits were accumulated some 40,000 to 10,000 years ago. It was actually interesting to kind of read about this pit as well, because, well, it's a tar pit. Usually when you hear about tar pits, the first thing that comes to mind are the mammoths, which I do believe that there were probably some mammoth specimens found in tar pits. I mean, it trapped everything in that time. It trapped a lot of things. So I'm assuming there were obviously mammoth specimens and everything found in there. It's just the primary, in terms of these two specific tar pits, were primarily predators of the Smilodon and things like that. I don't know about other tar pits. I'm sure other tar pits will be brought up as I go into other dinosaurs at later times, but these two are just related to the Smilodon. There was also a little fact that I read. I didn't feel the need to include it. I also didn't really have space to include it. But I believe there was, I think it was the same guy that I mentioned found and mistook the Smilodon fossils for hyena ones in the 1830s. I believe it was that guy too. But there was a guy, because a lot of Smilodon fossils were found in a cave. I believe it was nearby the tar pits, or somewhere similar. They found a good, decent amount of fossils in a cave, and they believed that the Smilodon would use the caves as, like, shelter or things like that. But the more likely theory is that the bones were probably just washed there due to said layers being so thin. They were probably washed there and then settled, which is why they were found in that cave. It's probably not likely that they used the cave. It was more likely that the bones washed up into the cave and everything, and then settled, and then that's why the bones were found in there. But that I believe was just labeled as speculation, as they don't have too much proof. But I kind of believe the washing in theory of it, due to the fact that, well, if the layers are so thin, it could easily just be washed up and everything. And now, this is the end of the Smilodon. So, unfortunately, I don't think it'll be a full 3-hour stream, unless I add on more dinosaurs. I doubt I'm gonna make it a 3-hour stream. Make it to a 3-hour stream. But hey, it's still the point of the fact that I'm doing these. That is the point. It doesn't have to be 3 hours. It can just be whatever. I could always do something else after this. Anyway, so, in short, kind of a bit of a wrap-up of everything on these slides. You had, like, interesting extinct big cat, powerful hunter, no living relatives, leaves extinction, like, curious, because at least no living ancestors that are known of. I mean, the paleontologists and everything are still finding new fossils every day. It could be likely that these evolved into something that we don't know has a correlation yet, but it's not been found. So, currently, no living relatives. It did not evolve or adapt and change in a way to kind of like fit the modern climate. It just doesn't exist, and it doesn't have any living relatives. So, my bit of speculation is, if it did somehow manage to do that, or it somehow managed to survive and it existed, I could see it potentially adapting to kind of fit in line with all of the modern large cats and everything that we have today. It would either be a fight for territory, or it would be like a fight for anything like that. Maybe they would develop a way to have social circles, or develop any number of things. There could be any number of things that could happen if this thing still existed. Or, as in my little comment above the line, they could have gotten the rhino treatment. If they kept their large teeth through whatever evolutionary or adaptation they could have gotten, they kept their large teeth, it could be likely they just got the rhino treatment and hunted into almost extinction as well, just for the sake of getting their teeth and pelts, like they do with the rhinos, just to get the horns. So that is also very likely the case. That could be very likely if this thing existed today, because let's be honest, humans just like killing everything that has some sort of interesting look to it, or some sort of value. But personally, it's one of my favorite prehistoric mammals, the Smilodon. It's not even got nothing to do with the fact it's a cat, it's just got to do with the fact it's interesting. And doing the research and everything on this, I learned quite a bit about it that I didn't know myself. It's just an interesting cat, because I didn't know it had 3 different species. I didn't realize that there was different types of the Smilodon, or anything like that. I'm gonna wait for the ad to be over before I go into the preview, because I don't want to be in there, or the sticker preview, because I don't want to be in there and people not be able to see anything or hear anything or anything like that. So I'll wait till after, but just in general, probably one of my favorite prehistoric mammals outside of the mammoth. I like the Smilodon and I like the mammoth. There's a couple others. There's like the prehistoric horse that I like as well, but this one is definitely up there. Definitely up there in preference. Okay. Just gonna wait for the ad and then I'll continue on. So when the ad shows up, y'all feel free to get a break and get some water and stuff, and then we'll go on to the next one. There it is. Bleh. Hey, now that the ads are over, this is the preview of the sticker that I am going to be releasing at some point in time. I don't know, it's a little bit of a time-lapse and everything. Eventually, it'll be a full time-lapse and everything of me making each of the 3 stickers. But there are going to be 3 stickers. One is going to be the skull, one is going to be the creature itself, and then the other one is going to be either the full skeleton or a part of the skeleton. I didn't feel like drawing the full skeleton of, like, the pose I was originally doing, because I realized I was starting to have a bit of a problem with the way it's pieced together, at least when I did this preview. So, maybe I'll try doing something with the actual full body one I traced over to get a general break apart of the bones. But we'll see. I'm probably going to keep it the way that I have that. I also forgot to press the timeline recording for the other 2, so I didn't get that, unfortunately. but it's fine. It'll be fine. And the funny thing is, too, I technically did the Tenonto one first. I did the Smilodon after the Tenontosaurus. I started on the Tenontosaurus first, but the so, and I'm still proud of these. Don't get me wrong, I'm still proud of these. These are still good and okay. I don't mind them, but I'm hoping that they translate well into stickers when I go to looking at what kind of stickers I want to do, what kind of stickers I want to get, keychains I want to get, pins I want to get. That's the general thing. I'm looking into what I want to offer first, and then I need to actually finish them. Some of them are done, some of them are not. And just kind of just figure out how I want to do them. That's really all it is. When they are done, there will be an announcement, and they will be on my Ko-Fi. So you'll be able to order them through Ko-Fi in order to actually get them and do it that way and everything, because VGen, I would do it through my VGen, but VGen, from what I've seen, does not have a physical items shop option yet. They have it for digital goods, but they don't have it for, like, physical items yet. It seems to be a feature they're working on, but it's not implemented yet, so that's fine. They will be on VGen when that does finally become a thing, though. I will be putting my stickers on VGen, too. That way, if people want to go through Ko-Fi, they can, or if they want to go through VGen, they can. But that just makes it easier for all of that. So, yes. Now, we're on to the Tenontosaurus. Again, similar sort of thing over here of its whole classifications, and the reason why it has so many clads, I'm actually not sure why it has so many clads. That, I actually don't know. It didn't say much about that, but I know it had a bit of an issue with the way it was being classified, in the beginning, before they finally came up with how they wanted to classify this thing. It had a bit of a debate behind how it was going to be labeled and what family it would belong to and all sorts of stuff. So there was that. But Tenontosaur, that I actually didn't know, I had an inkling, but I didn't know it as a fact, is a genus of the Iguanodon, which explains why this is probably one of my favorite dinosaurs, because the Iguanodon is also my favorite dinosaur. So that explains a lot. I thought it looked similar to the Iguanodon, and it technically is. So that makes a lot of sense. But it existed about 115 to 108 million years ago. There's two species, the Teleti and the Dossi, and it was known to the late Appian and the Albian ages of the early Cretaceous. So it was a Cretaceous period dinosaur, medium-sized, ornithopod, which means it can walk on both 4 legs and 2 legs. It's both quadruped and biped. And both species about weighed the same. The heights are the only thing that's different, but they weighed the same at about 1,000 kilograms, 220 pounds. And the Dossi, height range of about 7 to 8 meters, 23 to 26 feet. I'm assuming that's lengthwise. And same with the Teleti of 6 meters, which is 20 feet. I'm assuming they measured this thing from tail tip to nose tip, because that's the only way you can measure something that's on 4 legs most of its time. The Teleti species, or specimens, are the most common ones, having been found throughout several geological formations, North America. Dossi, on the other hand, was only found in only a handful of its fossils were found, and they were found from the Twin Mountain Formation of the Parker County in Texas. So that is also interesting. So the most common Tenontosaurus fossils you'll probably see are going to be the Teleti and the Dossi. Maybe not so much. Obviously, I'm sure there will be a few of them, but it's not likely, which is interesting that the smaller one is the most common, while the bigger one is not. That is a little interesting to me. But you've got the Toletti being described by John Ostrom in the 1970s, and then you've got the Dossie, which was described by 3 different people, Winkler, Murray, and Jacobs, in 1997. So it seems like the Dossie was discovered a little later by about almost 30 years than the Toletti. Either they were mistaken as larger Toletti, or they just weren't found yet until around that time. But the Tenontosaurus is distinguished by its unusually long and broad tail, and it's stiffened. Why is there a stinking slideshow? Why do you automatically resize my pictures? My slideshow just likes to mess up my pictures because it was hiding text yet again that I had not had hidden. But anyway, the long and broad tail, it was stiffened by like bony tendons and everything, so it kept it nice and like stiff instead of it being a floppy tail. It was probably used for like balance and turning and stuff. Most likely used as an appendage to keep balance when it did go bipedal. So that's why it was so firm and everything. But, fun fact, first fossil was found in the Bighorn County, Montana, by an American Museum of Natural History expedition in 1903. And then there was a time where the animal was not named or scientifically described, but eventually it was given its name Tenontosaurus, which means sinew lizard. I did not have a time frame for like what specifically the time was that it was not named, but the fact it didn't have a name for a while was interesting because they didn't know how to classify this thing to begin with. Which is another thing that I find a little interesting about it. Now, this page is a bit of interesting information that I came across because I meant to do it for the Smilodon, but I didn't get around to doing it. So this is kind of the general like description of it having like had such an issue being named, as well as media representation. So the Tenontosaurus' classification bounced around a bit. Originally it was under the Iguanodontidae, which is basically like the classification of the iguanodon and its related species, and then it was put into the Hypsilodonidae, which, as it sounds like, would belong to the Hypsilodon and its related species. Only for it to be wind up being classified as a non-dimorph iguanodont. So it's considered a relative of the iguanodon, but it's not classified as an iguanodon. It was given its own classification, Tenontosauridae, within the some of these I don't know how to pronounce, but you can see this word down here within the Rabbidontomorpha. It was done by Fonseca et al. In 2024. So, based on all of the places I was able to look up for this, it was very recently that this thing was finally given its own distinctive like classification to, and there's my birds. My birds are squeaking. You can hear them, I'm sure. But it was only very recently that this thing seems to have been given its own actual classification because of the fact it was being bounced around so much. So I'm figuring that could be why there wasn't much media representation of it, because people probably were just assuming it's an iguanodon, or like a subspecies of iguanodon, when in reality it's its own dinosaur and its own creature. So, but the reason for the classification is because it shares traits between the two. So it shared it shared traits between the two classifications, the iguanodon and the Hypsilodonidae. It shared classifications, making it hard to place at the time. So it's the position of it varied between studies before it was placed in its own thing. It varied. It was very varied. Oh yes, and then up here I have like what the definition of this very long word I'm not sure how to pronounce is, but it's simplified into meaning a group of basal iguanodont dinosaurs that are classified based on a study done from the Muttaburrasaurus. Or so according to what I could see to simplify. When I looked up what that specific, like, classification circle was, it mentioned a lot that it was based on research done of the Muttaburrasaurus. So, it's probably got something to do with that, which, based on that, it probably just is a classification for dinosaurs of a similar body structure and skeletal structure and things like that. But that's just a simplified version of what it is. So it was just given its own specific classification of that whole thing. But this is another thing that I found interesting, because this, as you see up here, is probably a site not many people know about, because it didn't last very long. I'm not quite sure why it closed down. I didn't look too deep into it, but this website was one of the only places I could find, aside from, like, the Isle or some other little places that kind of, like, vaguely mentioned the Tenontosaur, that had quote information at some point in time about the Tenontosaur. This is called the Jurassic Park Institute. It was made in 2001, but only lasted about 5 years before it closed in 2006. The intention behind it was to try, which is, I have in the fun facts there, the intention behind it was for the Jurassic Park, like, the people who ran the site, it was Jurassic Park themed, but for the people who ran the site, the intention behind the site itself was to allow for people, or for them to give information that was factual and scientifically accurate, that would have come from the leading paleontologists at the time themselves. So it would have probably either been interview-based, or it would have been in the style of the way Jurassic Park labels dinosaurs and describes dinosaurs, but it would have been facts from paleontologists directly. That's what it seems like the intention behind this would have been. So, like I just mentioned, the most notable form of media that features the Tenontosaurus, and only in recent years does it feature the Tenontosaurus, is the Isle, and specifically the Evrima branch. I remember when the Evrima branch was made, and the Tenontosaurus and the Utahraptor were the only two dinosaurs that were in the game. So, I remember that, and that was my first introduction to the Tenontosaur, actually, which led me to wanting to have this be one of the ones that I do and make stickers of and make merch of and everything. This is probably going to be one of the most common dinosaurs that you see me do, because I love this thing so much. But, yes. So, I'm hoping, because I kind of want to do it justice. The fact it doesn't have too much media representation, like in movies or things like that, I want to do more for it, because it's a very underrated dinosaur that I'm sure not too many people know of or about, unless you play the Isle or anything related to it. Unlike the Smilodon, where, like I said, this was going to be something I put in the other slides for the Smilodon, I just forgot, so I put it here. The Smilodon has been featured in, like, dinosaur documentaries, which it's not really dinosaurs documentaries, because the Ice Age was not really the dinosaur time period. But I say that in quotations because that's kind of generally what the gist of it is. And you've got, like, the Ice Age films, you had those documentaries, and it even has some representation in Jurassic Park itself, but primarily in the, like, mobile app games, where it's a dinosaur you can have to fight with, of their, like, mammal area. Oh, there's the ad. Ugh, take a break. Da-da-da-da. Ugh. Alright, now that the ad break looks like it's over, back into what I was saying. But yeah, the Smilodon has had a lot more sort of like just it's more well known, basically. It's very much one of the more well known animals, and yeah, it's there wasn't too much else to say. I'm just kind of wrapping it up, but it's just one of the more well known animals compared to the Tenontosaurus, especially considering based on like it only recently getting a classification and put in somewhere. But some fun facts. The Tenontosaurus was a facultative quadruped, as I mentioned earlier, which means it could function both bipedal and quadrupedal. So it was kind of like, it's like the iguanodon, which is well known to be both on its hind legs and on four legs. It's one of those. It is one of those. And then the Tenontosaurus's teeth were enameled unilaterally, which means enamel only on one side of the teeth. It didn't have an enamel on the other side, so it's kind of like a half thing. So like half the tooth on one side it has enamel, half the tooth on the other side does not. And then I also kind of mentioned it, but it's shown in the fun facts as well. The Jurassic Park Institute was made to provide factual and scientifically accurate information from some of the leading paleontologists at the time. So I kind of wish something like the Jurassic Park Institute existed still. Maybe not as that, but just like something in general. I might do a bit of research to see if I could find something like it, because I feel like that would be fun to have something that's kind of like themed, but is still scientifically accurate information, but it doesn't look like it's a scientist document that you're looking at. Like maybe it's got some fun pictures or something, or maybe it's just something fun. I feel like that could be a fun thing to have. And then this slide is literally just to show the classification of this thing. So you have this one from 2011, which was analysis of its first, like, classification of it being under the Iguanodon, Iguanodontia. And then this one over here is where it was then made into its own thing by the looks of it. So you've got this, and then it was put in its own thing over here in 2021. 2022 was, you've got these two here. They're both under this one, but it's just the fact that they struggled so hard to try and place this thing, and were so unsure that they now kind of have a bit of a placing for it. It interests me to a little bit of a degree, and it's also kind of funny. It's cool and funny to see kind of the process that they went through to try and place this thing. And now, this one some other funny facts, both good facts and funny facts about the Tenontosaurus, which is quite sad. This is in case you're, hello V, hi V, but in case you're wondering what this graphic is, this is basically a graphic that would be what you would see in a museum. This is half of it. It shows the fossil of the dinosaur, and it shows the fossil of the predator, which, as I was just about to explain with this being a funny slide, that would be a Deinonychus. You know, the funny feathered raptor type creatures. These guys were one of the top predators for the Tenontosaurus, which means this graph is the Deinonychus pretty much trying to jump on and kill the Tenontosaurus. It's latched on, it's murdering it. That's what that graph is. You just only see the one side of it because it's not the full thing. But that's what that is. Also, I wish for Twitch chat to work, but it's not working today. That's why no chats are being shown right now. I wish it was working. It worked Monday, but it's deciding it doesn't want to work today. It's deciding it doesn't want to show my chats. I wish it was, but it's fine. I'll get it working by Friday, so I'm not too worried about it. But anyway, so, like I just said, the most common predator of the Tenontosaurus was Deinonychus. Because most of the Tenontosaurus fossils that were found, 40 out of the 50 remains had Deinonychus with it. So, the majority of fossils that were found were literally Tenontosaurus that were being murdered. So, teeth and a number of skeletons of the Deinonychus were some of the things that were, like, very commonly seen. And it also lived in the area of the Acrocanthosaurus. So that was also another one of the ones that was probably killing these things mid whatever they were doing. So that was the funniest fact I found, because many of the depictions of the Tenonto, as you see in this graphic right here, is literally it dying, going to be hunted, or literally dead. It is the funniest and saddest thing I have ever seen depicted of a dinosaur because of that. It's just like, this thing has no other depictions than it literally just dying. You're fine, V. Don't worry about it. You need to focus on your work. You're good. You're good. This is much more interesting than a doobie anime. Yeah, no kidding. But yes. So anyway, those are considered to be the two primary hunters of this specific herbivore. So yeah, that's the unfortunate depiction of this thing, is just literally death. And just death. Death follows this thing everywhere it goes. Even though its name is sinew lizard, it should have been death lizard, because all it does is die in every depiction of it. But anyway, the primary diet, going from that fact into its diet, was likely tree ferns, cycads, and primitive flowering plants, which pretty much just means low ground herbs, plants, stuff like that. But because of its bipedal stance, it could have gotten a little bit higher, not as high as some of them, since they weren't as big as some other dinosaurs that could have led them to being able to get, like, bark, leaves, fruit from trees and stuff. Same with the fact it has a U-shaped beak, it would have been able to grab those things better. But it most likely was just ground level grazing things. ferns, like I just mentioned, stuff like that. So, it was a very just kind of probably primarily quadruped creature than it was anything else. And another interesting fact, when it comes to when it produced eggs, it shares a similar trait to modern birds, like chickens, for instance. It has a medullary bone, medullary bone tissue, which was believed to have been used in the production of eggs. And this tissue is, I believe, why they have now made the point that the, like, chicken and modern birds are closely related to dinosaurs is because of this tissue. It's probably one of those many things that they found to support that fact. Because it was also found in, like, dinosaurs of a similar size to the, well, even though the Tyrannosaurus wasn't really the same size as the Tenonto, similar size. It was found in the Allosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus. And, yeah, but the tissue also shows that, because the reason why the Tenontosaurus and the Allosaurus is also mentioned here, it also shows that this tissue would have meant that before they reached full size, they would have reached reproduction age first. So they would have been able to reproduce before they were fully grown. And to support this, there was something mentioned that when they looked at the fossils of a Tenontosaurus, it was around 8 years old, like when it died, but it showed signs of being, like, able to reproduce and everything already. It does sound wrong, but dinosaurs and animals are much different than people. So unfortunately, the way reproduction and stuff works in animals and everything is much different than it is with people and things related. But yes, because much like dogs, an 8-year-old dog is different from an 8-year-old human being. Because animal years and things of the sort of that are much different because they may not live as long, or they may not, any number of factors. Ages are, for dinosaurs and everything, are translated into terms that we understand, even if they may not be accurate. Maybe accurate, may not be. It's I don't want to say it's subjective, but the way that they age and the way they react and everything, especially when it comes to prey animals, is different. Like, if they wait till they're 30 years old to lay eggs and everything, they will more than likely be extinct, because, as mentioned in the top there, and will be discussed later on, with the Tenontosaurus especially, most of the time it was hunted was when it was in adolescence. So it wasn't an adult, and it wasn't necessarily too young, but the primary number of fossils that were seemingly found were, like, within that age range of being, like, not adult, not baby, but just small enough that a pack of Deinonychus could easily take it down and kill it. So it's a whole other thing. I'm not gonna go into that, because that is not what this is about, but it does, I know why you say it sounds wrong. It does sound very wrong based on human side of things, but they are not humans. What were you known for, Tenontosaur? I was food. Pretty much. This thing is known for literally pretty much only having pictures of it being dragged by an acro or pounced on by multiple Deinonychus. That is the one thing I have found for this entire dinosaur. So, now, moving on, when it comes to where the remains of this dinosaur was found, it was found primarily in the, like, Clover Formation of Montana and Wyoming. Or Cloverly, sorry, that I misread. But it was mostly found in that area and in two distinct rock units, the Little Sheep Mudstone and the Cloverly Formation Unit 5. Or, no, that was formerly Cloverly Formation Unit 5. I can't even read my own. Slides right. Not that I've been doing that this whole time. I actually haven't. But it was found in the Little Sheep Mudstone and then the Himes member. So, in more technical terms, it was found in Cloverleaf Formation Unit 5 and Units 6 and 7. It was primarily found in those two places. And then you've got, when it comes to the climate that they were in, originally it was very arid to semi-arid, dry, very little rainfall, so it was basically a desert. It was originally a desert, and the Tenontosaurus tended to live there, which makes sense, because the Acro and the Deinonychus were also found in the area of these things, so those two were more than likely found in similar places to this creature. But around a period of a few million years, it wound up shifting to have even more rainfall, which, on a side note, probably caused so many floods, because if you go from a desert to suddenly having, like, tropical to subtropical climate because of increased rainfall, that's only going to cause a lot of mud, a lot of, stinging floods, because the ground isn't made to hold the water, in just any number of issues. But despite that, for some reason, the Tenontosaurus, instead of dying, went up. So when it turned from desert to stinking rainforest, there were even more Tenontosaurus than there was before. Which I found quite interesting, I'm not gonna lie, because usually when a environment changes drastically, the dinosaur, or whatever creature it is, can't keep up. But it just showed that this thing had, like, both dramatic and remarkable adaptation to that change, to the point where it's like, oh, it's raining now? Great, there can be more of us. They just increased. Which is funny, to so many degree. I need water, and there's gonna be an ad. Water. But yeah, I think this Tenontosaurus so far has been one of the funniest dinosaurs I've come across, minus the stinking mini long name one that we found when I was playing that Minecraft, doing that Minecraft stream the one day. That one is also going to be an option. You can look forward to that one being an option. the Macropatchy, whatever it was you said. Pretty much. Or it was like, oh, lol, more ring. That's nice. Let's get him to get more of us. Pretty much. Oh, God. Yeah, let's see how much information there is on that one. I'm gonna wait for the ad to roll through before I do anything. I will wait for the ad. There it is. I like how I can pick up my mic. Or not my keys. My keys are so clacky. I can already see the pic of the thing just being a green lizard. I mean, it's definitely going to be something. You can pick up your mic. Oh, yes. Just. I'm just smacking my mic now. But yes, I can pick up my mic if I wanted to. I don't have the, like, boomstick one. I want to get the boomstick one, I just don't have anywhere to put it. I need a different desk for things in order for me to do that, but that will be eventually. That will be eventually. I also need to get a smaller keyboard. My keyboard is so large. That sounded interesting. Yeah, I technically have, like, a filter on my mic that blocks out things, so it's muffled. But if I hit it hard enough, I can still just make noise with it, but I don't want to hit it that hard. Alright, looks like the ads and everything are over. Let's move on. The slide, unfortunately, there wasn't small hands, I mean, yeah, actually, I do have quite small hands. And I'm gonna move myself for this one, because you guys will be able to see... Look at the graphic! They have the Acro and the Deinonychus killing it! Just... It's so unfortunate, but it's so funny. But, yes, so... Unfortunately, there isn't as much information on the Tenontosaurus than there is probably any other dinosaur I could have chose, but I wanted to do one on it, because when I started making the sticker designs for this, when I decided to do the Tenontosaurus, I was very proud of them, and you'll see it in the next slide, but it's, yeah, there's just not as much information on the Tenonto. There's a bit. There is a bit, I will give it that. There is quite a bit of information on the Tenontosaurus, but it's not nearly as much as, like, probably the Mammoth, the Smilodon, the Rex, and the Triceratops, which are, like, the popular ones. Not as much, unfortunately, but I did what I could with what I could find. And I also wanted more pictures that are accurate, but a lot of them either look pretty much like an iguanodon, they're the graphic I literally just showed, or it's the skeleton. The most of the pictures of the Tenontosaurus is either something that looks strange, is like somebody's depiction of it artist-wise, or is just literally its skeleton. There's not too much on it, but it's still a cool dinosaur. It's still very interesting, and I quite enjoy the species. Which is part of the reason why I mentioned earlier, I want to do a lot of art of it, which may or may not wink wonk hint at something I'm planning to do. Brother getting ganked by everyone, no wonder it multiplied like flies. Exactly! Exactly! It's pretty much like the thing that would equal food for everything in that area. Especially those two. But, wink wonk, hint hint, I have something planned with the Tenontosaurus that may also be incorporated into streams at some point. So, that will be interesting to figure out. The thing, maybe. Ha ha ha. Very funny. But anyway, I hope it, with, like, it having now recently actually gotten its own classification, and also maybe now starting to gain traction and attention, especially with it being in the aisle. People are going to be looking into the dinosaur and stuff more. Maybe more information will be made about it. Maybe more people will draw it. Maybe more people will just do things and everything with it. I have found, with me wanting to go through, like, the Jurassic World games and everything, I have found that there are mods for at least 2 that will add the Tenontosaurus in. So maybe if I go through Jurassic World Evolution 2 and then the normal Jurassic World Evolution on stream at some point, I'll mod them to add in some custom dinosaurs. Aha, who knows? I don't know why I'm talking like this. But anyway, I definitely don't have a bias towards this dinosaur. It's definitely not the reason why it's my watermark in my artwork. Definitely not. But now, we're on the slide for its own little thing, and in the corner I forgot Clip Paint Studio. had, like, or Clip Studio Paint had, I had a time-lapse feature, otherwise I would have had it enabled for the entire time of drawing it. So you guys only get me doing the coloring of the Tenonto. So, it's unfortunate, but these are currently where the stickers are at. Obviously, when I say they're not done, I mean they're not done. I mean, look at the thing's head. I haven't done any of the features on it, and it's just got little black circles for eyes. The skull and the skeleton are done. It's just the Tenontosaurus itself isn't quite done yet. But how I'm also going to be doing the coloring of these guys is I'm going to do a color based on the first letter of their name. So Tenontosaurus has teal, the Smilodon has sage, and whatever dinosaurs or males are chosen for next week, it's going to be the same. Like if I get Anki, yes, sage green. It's green, but it's specifically sage green. Yeah. So sage green is what the Smilodon is, and then the turquoise or teal is the Tenontosaurus, and I did like a gradient on the bottom half of it for like the actual body ones that kind of work with the design. So like the Smilodon has a purple of a similar hue value to the sage green that I chose, and then the Tenontosaurus has like an orangey brown that is similar to the teal. That one's supposed to be teal that I chose. So, hopefully, that'll look okay in the end when I actually have the stickers and stuff to show and when they're printed and everything. Hopefully they look okay. And it'll be the same for all of the dinosaurs. So like if I choose to do the Anki, whatever colors start with A or is as close to starting with the letter A as I can get, I will do. Same goes for like the mammoth, magenta. Well, I won't do a magenta mammoth. Maybe I will do a magenta mammoth. Who knows? Spinosaurus will also have to have a color found. Anything with an L. The first one I do that starts with an L, I'm just gonna do is lime. Lime and lemon. But yeah, so that's how I'm choosing to do the colors for them. Is first letter of their name is equal to the color that is going to be the primary gradient for their design. But that is all I have when it comes to the slides, unfortunately. I was hoping to be able to make it last, like, a full 3 hours. I got it to almost 2 hours. So I'm happy with that. I will say I am happy with the 2 hours. But that will be released later on for, after stream and everything. I'll have the slideshow posted in the Discord, and you guys will be able to ask questions in the Discord about it whenever you decide to go through and read it on your own if you missed the stream or the VOD. Want a little grade by someone that's not a professional? Sure, give me a grade for how the slideshow went. Because, like I said, I don't mind feedback. I am looking for feedback. At least constructive feedback, not mean feedback, because I need to know how I can make it a little bit better. Granted, it depends on if I can, like, on what information I can find, how I present it. Because, like I mentioned, the Tenontosaurus doesn't have too much stuff. So I did with what I could find. But, aside from that, if there's a lot of information, I will be kind of, like, condensing it. And everything. And, yeah. It is what it is. Well, the reason why I have a lot of text on the slideshow is because of the fact it's meant for people to go over afterwards. Like, if somebody missed a stream, or they don't want to watch the VOD, but they still want to look at the slideshow, they can go through and read it themselves. And it's going to be very similar to what I talked about on stream. That's the reason for all the text. All the text is meant to be, like, there for people to kind of go back and forth between and have a condensed version of information that I found. That's condensed information, too. Keep in mind. So, it's it's not like it's supposed to be one slide for one line of text. It's all sort of stuff. True, considering this is a presentation. Exactly. It's a slideshow, and it's meant for people to go back through and look over and see all the stuff and all the stuff I'm doing. Obviously, as I do more of these, I'll get a little bit better at picking and choosing information that I deem more important than not. But until that point in time, unfortunately, it's a lot more, how would you say, like, I'm lost on the word I'm looking for, but you get my point. It's meant for people to go, I make it with the people that might go back and look over the slideshow itself in the future. Because the VOD could easily get buried in the future. So, and same with the video, because this is going to be edited down into a video as well. As best as I can, edit it down into a video. But, aside from that, that will eventually get buried, even though it will have its own playlist. It'll eventually get buried. The VOD will eventually get buried. And I just want people to be able to go through the slides and everything if they don't necessarily want to watch it, and still get the information and process it in a way that they choose to, which is why I left each slide up, even though I was blocking a little bit of the text on a few bits. I left the slides up so that way people could read and listen if they wanted to, because I know I tend to have to do both. I have to watch, and I have to read, and I have to listen in order for me to get things, if it's not a hands-on thing myself. So I'm trying to kind of have it to where people can read or look it over in their own way, in their own rights, and it doesn't entirely matter. But in the end, it all depends. I will definitely have to go through and do a little bit better with making it longer, because 10 minutes, an extra 10 minutes would have made it to 2 hours. I wanted it for 3 hours, but I don't think I would be able to find enough information to make this a 3-hour stream unless I extended it to, like, 3 or 4 dinosaurs. That is the initial thing, as I was hoping it would last for 3. I don't think it will unless I add more dinosaurs to the slides, or I do 2 different slides for multiple dinosaurs in one stream. And I don't think that's the best way to do that. So, in hindsight of that, I think... Were you a cat peek? Are you trying to do an emote and you just can't? Is that what your problem is, buddy? You good? Nah. But yeah, that's the intention. But I do appreciate your scoring, though. I will definitely try doing the slideshows a little bit better for next Wednesday. But aside from that, I didn't have anything else planned for the stream either, which is why I was hoping it would last longer. I wanted to try and hit 2 hours minimum, if not the full 3 I usually do. But I don't think that is possible unless I extend it to more dinosaurs in one slide. I could do 3 in one slide. Well, 2 hours and 6 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. But, still, I was hoping to actually have, like, the actual dinosaurs to talk about for those 10 minutes, is what I mean. Instead of it just being me rambling off here at the end. But, it is what it is, honestly. It just means I have to come up with some kind of plan for after the slideshow if I want the stream to last longer. But I'll think of something. I didn't have much of a plan for after the slideshow. I was thinking about potentially going into doing art, after the slideshow to kind of like finish off the stickers and everything, but I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe next week I'll do that. Maybe next week we'll just go into a game after the slideshow that's dinosaur based. Yeah. Yeah, it really didn't. I mean, the Smilodon did have much more, but I was trying to at least do 6 slides minimum, because I thought the Tenontosaurus had more information. But when I started doing the Tenontosaurus after the Smilodon, there really was not much there. I was very surprised, Automod. Yeah, I don't know what Automod is trying to flag when it comes to you, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping the Tenontosaur may have more. Maybe I won't have this issue next stream because the dinosaurs or the mammals that are chosen will have far more information on them than I expect. It seems like whoever's emotes those are, Automod doesn't like. That's what it looks like to me, but yeah, I don't know. Now it's just a blank screen because my chat doesn't want to work. Now it's just a blank screen. Probably that's probably what it is. Yeah, for some reason they allowed it, but now their emotes because of that are just being flagged. That is funny. But aside from that, maybe I won't have this issue with the next dinosaurs that are chosen. But in the end, it doesn't really matter now, does it? I definitely will think of something to do after the stream, so that way it's not just me staring at this. Maybe these streams will go into, like Jurassic World Evolution or something. Maybe that's what it'll go into. Who knows? I will definitely take more consideration into it for that purpose. Nope, still doesn't like you. Yeah, it's the emote. But yeah, it's... Now y'all get to just watch me crashing out over an emote. That's hilarious. Are you good? You good? Are you good, stranger? I want to get Automod and strangle it, right? And I don't know if there's really a way to turn him off. There probably is, but I don't know if I want to because my only other options are like Nightbot. And we know how Nightbot is. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was just about to ask you to clarify that like, are you that upset with Automod? Or that you want me to turn it off? Like... But, yeah, but this is fine. What is that? Oh, that's funny. That is funny. I have no idea. Maybe somebody has flagged it in their chat for some reason, but not that one. That could easily be what it is. But next week I will have like the after slide. So I'll have something planned for after the slideshow. At least I'm hoping to, whether it be a game, be art, or be something of that sort. I am hoping to have something planned for it. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream off here because I'm not about to... I don't know what to do, so I don't want to necessarily, like, just have something weird. There's a small trick that if I send enough from the ban stuff, it gets approved by Automod. We'll learn eventually, but I don't wanna... Fair. Fair. But yes, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. That way, I can go on to doing the after-stream stuff that I said I was going to do. Friday is either going to be Jurassic World Evolution again, or it's going to be Minecraft. I did do some testing with the Minecraft server, and unfortunately, Neoforge for what I want to do is literally my only option, unless I downgrade the version to like 1.20. And it's just literally just because either there's no Jurassic mod that is in 1.21, or there's no other of my other mods that I use that are kind of like specific to my mod pack. So until I find something else, I'll just have to pick and choose dinosaurs from the Jurassic Revived mod that I'll make enclosures of, and ones that I won't. And I'm just gonna do it based on preference at this point, because not all the dinosaurs look like they're worth it, and some of them do. So, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that there's not been much update or progress with that mod, and that there's not been anything else. Yeah, it is annoying. I could definitely downgrade it into 1.20. I don't know if that would corrupt my world, so I might be doing some testing with that off stream. But aside from that, yeah, it'll either be Minecraft on Friday, or it'll be Ark, or it'll be Jurassic World, something. But until that point, thank you everybody for coming by. I don't know why you're having issues. Stinking screen. I need to make new ones of those. But anyway, goodbye. And hopefully next week we'll have a bit better information and everything.